Hello friends, welcome to another video of Zeta Axis, and today we are going to discuss about local winds. This is the first video among a series of 3 videos, and in this video we will discuss the local winds which are of katabatic winds nature. Here you can see different local winds across the world. The local winds are winds which are created due to certain local atmospheric as well as physiological conditions. Therefore, these winds are confined to one region. The local winds can be broadly and loosely classified into 3 groups. The katabatic winds, which are caused by the winds which are descending a mountain, the frontal winds which are caused by fronts, and then there are winds which are created due to huge pressure gradients. We will discuss each of these winds in details in these 3 series. In this particular video, we will discuss about katabatic winds. In the next video, we will discuss about frontal winds, and then we will discuss about pressure gradients. There are another 2 videos which are quite relevant. The first is adiabatic cooling and rainfall. This will give you an understanding that what is adiabatic cooling and how does it lead to rainfall. Here we have discussed in detail the whole adiabatic process. The second is Foehn and Chinook. We have discussed these 2 local winds in great detail in this video, so do watch them. Now let's quickly see what is adiabatic heating and cooling. So when wind blows and there is a mountain in the middle, the wind that rises up, it gets adiabatically cooled down because the pressure over here at the ground level is higher and the pressure on the peak is lower, and therefore the air is cooled down, and therefore we see that there is rainfall in this region because the air gets saturated due to decrease in temperature. But on the other side, where the air is descending, we see that the air gets heated because of compression. The pressure is lower over here and higher over here. These winds are adiabatically heated and they do not give any rainfall. Now let's see what is katabatic winds. The katabatic winds are basically winds which are descending a mountain, and when they descend they get adiabatically heated, so they are warm and they do not give any rainfall. Here is another variation of katabatic wind, where we can see that the wind is rising on one side, which is called anabatic winds. These winds then again descend on the other side, and that is why it is called katabatic winds. Again here the wind is adiabatically heated and they do not give any rainfall in this region. The next type of katabatic winds are those winds where the wind in the upper atmosphere descends. Here we can see that these winds are not rising up, but these winds in the upper layer, they are descending, and here they are again katabatic winds and they also do not give any rainfall. Here we can see the first example of local katabatic winds, which is seen in the Central European region. Here there are Alp mountains and we can see that the wind is trying to cross the Alp mountains. If we see the geography of this region, we can clearly see the Alp mountains are much higher than the surrounding regions. Now when the wind tries to pass over them, it has to first rise and then descend. When it rises up, it gets adiabatically cooled, giving a lot of rainfall in this region. But when it descends, it gets adiabatically heated, and therefore they become warm and they do not give any rainfall. But because they are descending over here, these winds are called katabatic winds. Here, if there is any snow, these warm winds will melt them. So here are the general characteristics of Foehn wind which we see in the Central European region. They are katabatic, they are formed in Central Europe, and when air descends Alps, it becomes warm and it is dry. The winds which are approaching a mountain, remember when they are coming over here, they are uplifted and there is adiabatic cooling, so moisture condenses and gives rainfall. But on the leeward side, that is this side, you will see that the descending wind gets adiabatically heated. The heated winds becomes warm and it carries very less moisture and also melts snow. So these are the general characteristics of a Foehn wind. These days the name Foehn wind is used for all types of katabatic winds, and all these katabatic winds that we are going to discuss in this video, they share these characteristics. The first is they are dry and relatively warm, and they are seen on the leeward side of the mountain. They can raise the temperature by 14 degrees Celsius or 20 degrees Celsius within matter of hours. They are also snow eaters, that is they melt the snow because they are warm. The regions experiencing these katabatic winds, they are generally forest fire prone. So there are hazards of forest fires in these regions. Now let's see another type of katabatic wind, that is Chinook wind, which is seen in the Central American region. Here the winds are trying to cross the western coast and come to the central region of America. They have to cross the mountains over here. If we see the landscape of this region, we can see that there is continuous chain of mountains. These are the Cascade Mountains, there are some other mountains, and this is also Rockies Mountain. So the air which is trying to cross them, they have to first rise over these mountains and then they descend on this side. Here they are adiabatically cooled, they will give rainfall, there will be some snowfall in this region, but when they arrive here, you will see that they descend. Here we will see that there is katabatic winds. These are warmer winds and they again will melt if there is any snow and they will increase the temperature in this region. Here is the summary of Chinook winds. The winds rise over Rocky Mountains and they descend in Canadian prairies or Great Plains. The Chinook word means snow eater. However, there are certain sources which contest this meaning. Then the Chinook on the windward side, that is when it is approaching the mountain, it will give a lot of rainfall as we discussed. Over the Rockies it causes snow, and on the leeward side when it descends it causes snow melting. So you can see that single wind has all these three characteristics. On one side it gives rainfall, over the mountains it will give snowfall, and then when it descends it will cause snow melting. Now let's look at the third type of katabatic winds, which are called Santa Ana winds. These winds are seen in the California region of USA and they originate from Great Basin and Mojave Desert. They flow from this Great Basin towards the Pacific Ocean. Here we can clearly see that there are large number of mountains in this region. If we take a closer look to the landscape, we can see that there are these mountains and the wind has to go over the mountains to reach the ocean. The winds, when they descend, they get adiabatically heated over here, thus warming up the air. And this air, when it reaches the plain region, it will increase the temperature. If we have a further closer look to this region, we can see that there are these valleys. These are created by rivers. And the wind flows through these valleys to reach this region. Here it is Southern California. So because of these valleys, the air is funneled and its speed increases. Therefore, the Santa Ana winds are having very high velocity. Here we can see the direction of these winds, and this yellow color indicates that they are funneled from these river valleys. Here is the summary of Santa Ana winds, which are basically katabatic winds seen in the California region of USA. They occur from September to May, that is the winter season. They are hot, dry easterly. They are hot because they are heated due to adiabatic compression. They are funneled from the passes and the river valleys. That is why they have high velocity. They are known for hot and dry weather. Winds originate from high pressure region over Great Basin and Mojave. So we can see that because of the high pressure in these regions, the wind flows towards the low pressure region over Pacific Ocean. As the air descends from mountains, it is adiabatically heated. So basically it is also a katabatic wind. Next we will see the Bora winds, which are seen in the Dinaric Alps of Europe. Here again there is high pressure in this region and there is low pressure region over here. And because of this, the wind moves over the Dinaric Alps. If we see the geography of this region, we can clearly see that here there are plain regions. So the air, it has to rise up and then descend. And in doing so, it again gets adiabatically heated. However, the winds blowing over are very cold. Therefore, the adiabatic heating cannot raise their temperature. Therefore, the Bora winds are basically cold winds, but they flow with very high velocity. So we can see that Bora winds are strong cold winds which blows from northeast onto the Adriatic region of Italy, Slovenia and Croatia. They are most common in winter. Again, they are katabatic winds. It has a very high velocity and it is known to knock down people and overturn vehicles. We have seen that it flows from the high pressure region behind the Dinaric Alps and low pressure region over the Adriatic Sea. Bora is basically a cold wind because the initial temperature of Bora winds is so low that the adiabatic warming also cannot increase its temperature significantly. Therefore, they still are cold even when they descend the mountains. The next katabatic wind which we are going to discuss is Zonda winds, which are seen in the Argentina region. Here they are Andes mountains. And if we have a closer look at the geography of this region, we can again see that these are the mountains. The wind will start from here and then it will rise up and then it will descend in the plain region. Again, there will be adiabatic heating of this wind over here, and therefore it gets heated and it increases the temperature in this region. Here is the summary of Zonda winds. It is a hot wind of Foehn type. On the eastern slopes of Andes in central Argentina, they carry a lot of dust in the dry season and they are most common during the winter and spring months. In this image, we can see that when the wind is rising on the western side of Andes, it will give you rainfall. But as it starts to descend, we can see that now it becomes warm and there will be no rainfall in this region. Next is Berg winds, which is seen in the southern part of African continent. Here, if you see the geography, you can see that there are these mountains. I think they are called Darling Mountains. There are these mountain regions. The wind, it tries to move from the African land towards the ocean. Here there is high pressure and here there is low pressure. And when it is trying to do so, it has to descend over here. It descends and it again gets adiabatically heated, thus increasing the temperature in this region. Here is the characteristics. They are also warm and dry wind and they are also of type Foehn. They originate from the interior plateau of South Africa and blow towards the coast, which we have seen. And the high pressure system, which is located over here, creates a pressure gradient to force these winds towards the coast. Here you can see the low pressure region, and that is why these winds blow in this direction. Again, it is also a katabatic wind. The next katabatic wind which we are going to see are Viliwao. Now the Viliwao are special type of winds because they are seen in the polar regions. Here the mountains are covered with ice. So very cold air flows from the mountains towards the valley. These winds, when they are very strong, they carry a lot of snow or a lot of ice particles with them. Here is an example. This is the wind which is descending. So these kind of winds are called Viliwao. Here is the summary of Viliwao, which is also a katabatic wind. These are the sudden violent cold katabatic winds which descend from the mountains towards the coast and they occur in the high latitudes. Here the mountains are covered with snow and ice fields. Therefore, when the air comes down, it carries a lot of ice particles with them. It is mainly seen in state of Magellan, Aleutian Islands as well as ports of the Alaska. The next important katabatic wind is Canterbury nor'wester winds. These are seen in New Zealand region. This is the island of New Zealand and these are the Southern Alps. This is a mountain range in New Zealand. If we see the geography, we can see that these are the mountains in the New Zealand and this is the plain region. These are called Canterbury plains. Now wind, it flows from this side of the mountains, that is north side of the mountains, towards this plain. And when it blows, it has to move downwards. Thus, it forms a katabatic wind and it gets adiabatically heated, thus increasing the temperature in this region. These winds can also be created because of extratropical cyclones, which we can see over here. These are the cold winds and these are the warm winds, and this is the warm front. So we can see that the air which is moving in this warm front, it will have to descend the mountains. It will cause some air to descend towards the Canterbury plain, thus increasing the temperature. This is the summary. Here we can see that it is in the east coast of New Zealand's South Island and they are closer to the Canterbury coast, that is the coast near the plain. Dry and warm air blowing over the Canterbury plains. They are also of Foehn type and generally northwestern direction. The winds can be hot and inverting over the Canterbury plain. So these winds become warm because they are descending these mountains. The next important katabatic wind is Helm wind, which is seen in United Kingdom. This is England. And here we have Crossfell mountains. Wind from this side of this mountain moves towards this side and in this process it descends, thus creating a katabatic wind which increases the temperature of this region. I hope you like our first video on local winds where we have discussed about katabatic winds. In the next winds, we will discuss about frontal winds and winds caused by pressure gradient. Do watch those videos, and if you have liked this video, then do share with your friends and subscribe to the channel. If you like what we are doing, then you can support us by using the Paytm ID. Thanks for watching.